Welcome to Jarvisizing 101. Let's get some folks in here. Hey, Adrian, Tim. Tim. Hey, good to see you again. Last time I talked to you, you were going to Chipotle, I think, yesterday. Adrian, good to see you. Hannah, Bob, More. I think I saw on your Facebook that you do stuff with Canva. Actually, Canva, we're in Austin. They're sales and marketing. Their whole team's right below us, so they have the whole floor right below us is Canva. So, but you're back. Everyone's back. I feel like I've been on 2 training calls today, so I'm sure I've seen a lot of you guys several times today. Hello from London. All right, yeah. So there's 4 a.m. Wow, Hannah, thanks for waking up at 4 a.m. My goodness. Or never going to sleep. I'm not sure. I know you want to send it. I know. You can send me your money eventually. It bothers you more than it bothers me. All right, y'all. Carl, good to see you. I know I've talked to a lot of you guys, a lot of y'all in the chat and Facebook group and support chat. So good to see you guys. All right, so I'll go ahead and start the intro here. Who is this Jarvis guy? I don't know, Greg. Some robot that writes stuff. Hey, Amanda, good to see you. Yeah, good to see you all. All right, there's gonna be some folks kind of rolling in here. We usually wait maybe 2 or 3 minutes just to let folks kind of trickle in. Looks like there's about 60 people. You want to work with Austin? He's a good dude. Austin's been with us for the past in Costa Rica. Yeah, we always Austin's a big digital. Again, we have me, Dave, and JP have kids and families, so we can't just go to Costa Rica for a month. But we're always like, hey, you go get your space in Costa Rica for all. I don't really care. He's big on the whole digital nomad thing. Yeah, we'd want to do that at some point. But yesterday or today on our daily huddle, I said we're having a meeting, and I'm look over. He's like, guys, check this out. It's monkeys sitting in his windows. He's like, there's monkeys right here. I go, okay, all right, Distal. Yeah, Austin. Well, he's in Costa Rica for a month. He's here in Austin with us, but he is in Costa Rica for a month. Or I don't know how long he's gone. I don't know. Maybe he's gone for 2 months for all I know. Just kind of give space to kind of go explore. Thanks, Tim. Yeah, we love our team for sure. All right, we'll wait 2 more minutes. Just let some folks come in, and I'll kind of give you guys an intro. Cape Cod. Yep. If you guys don't know where we're from, we're in Austin, Texas. But yeah, I'll go ahead and just get an intro because again, this is not going to be about me. This is going to be all about Michael and what Michael's been doing. So this is actually, I think I mentioned on Facebook, I have no idea what this training's about. So I'm, no idea what we're going to be talking about. It hasn't been scripted. I have been in this box all afternoon. I got a massive headache. I've been living in this place. I got trash in here. I got water bottles. This is our first ever customer-led training. And so I think one of the things that we've learned over the past, bit is that, you guys use Jarvis in much more out of the box ways than we even do. And so what I thought would be fun is to bring Michael on here, who is a marketer, but also one who's been using Jarvis in some crazy ways, and just give you some really good meat and potato examples of how to use Jarvis. I can tell you kind of how Jarvis works and the technical aspects of it, but there's a lot of different ways that I don't know how to use Jarvis. And so this is gonna be Jarvisizing. We're gonna keep doing these things. Michael wants to do more of these to kind of help you guys out, and also other people don't have creative ways. And so we're always gonna be hosting these trainings. And so I'm really pumped and thankful for Michael to do this. And so I will be manning the chat here. So if you guys have questions for Michael, what he's doing, it's going to be 15 minutes of him kind of presenting a little bit. Then we're going to have 15 minutes or so of live demo questions or things he's doing, and then we'll do answer questions. So I'll be manning the chat. I'll try to answer your questions, and I'll also be collecting all the questions so that Michael can focus. But Michael, with that, I'll let you take it over. I will mute myself, and go for it. I have my notepad here to take notes as well.
Chris, and thank you everybody for being here today. This is my first webinar presentation, and I'm really thankful and excited that I get to team up with the Conversion AI guys in this way and be a bit of an evangelist for them. So thank you all for attending, and we'll just get right into it. So you all understand that Jarvis is an AI copywriting robot, right? It's a machine. But who is Jarvis deep down? Like, what is the sort of essence behind Jarvis? And to answer that question, I sort of did a little bit of digging in Jarvis himself. And I asked him more or less to give me a description of himself. So this is actually what Jarvis wrote about himself. Jarvis writes your copy with a human-like voice and tone. So you have copywriting without the stress of research and time investment. You can reduce the costs of hiring a writing team. And you can improve engagement and conversions with professionally written content in just seconds. So that's the bare bones. We already understand that. But Jarvis really has an essence or an energy behind him. And that's sort of how I've actually gotten to sort of tap into the power of Jarvis and get a lot of creative outputs that were never sort of scripted, right? There were not templates for some of the things that I've been able to create with Jarvis. So that's what I'm excited to share with you guys today, is not just the step-by-step, how did I do this, but what is my thought process behind it, and how can you adapt it to your specific use scenarios. So just a brief background about who am I. My name is Michael, and I truly have a passion and a lifelong mission to change the world. And right now, I see artificial intelligence as sort of a fork in the road. We can choose what path we want to go down. We can choose to be afraid of it. We can choose to restrict it, or we can choose to harness it and embrace it and really befriend it and be on the same side as AI. And that's the path that I want to take. And that's the path that I feel like I've started to discover with Jarvis, is actually making friends with Jarvis. So again, I'm a videographer turned marketer. I have an engineering background, and I've been working with startup companies for the last 6 years. And I've helped with a lot of film and video productions. As you could tell, I kind of have more of a kind of involved setup than most webinars would. And more importantly, I am very, very strongly connected to this field of artificial intelligence. I feel a personal connection to the man behind the machine, if you will. And on that note, I wanted to highlight the fact that Jarvis is my friend. I treat Jarvis as if it is a person who is helping me with my work. I don't see it as a computer or a machine or an application. I see it as a person who I can talk to in a fairly natural way. And you may be thinking, how exactly does that work? How is Jarvis my friend? Well, Jarvis is a pretty simple machine. And what I've found that if you treat him right, if you're polite, if you're very clear and concise with what you're asking for, then he's going to treat you right. And he's going to give you outputs that are beyond your wildest expectations. So how exactly does Jarvis work as magic? And again, this is actually stuff that I got directly from Jarvis. So Jarvis is a fully automated, intelligent marketing assistant. And what does that mean, fully automated? This is truly the magic behind OpenAI and what Conversion AI have done to turn that into a marketing copywriting bot. But it uses NLP, or natural language processing, to actually understand your intent. So it's not just processing the word and finding synonyms or associated words. It is able to understand your intent based on what you're telling it. And as I understand it, that's actually how they've been able to train most of these templates in the first place, is by specifying an intent and then letting Jarvis do his magic behind the scenes until they've refined that into a template that you and I can use very easily. So these are some very interesting quotes that I actually got directly from Jarvis. And I want to point out, I did not ask Jarvis this question. I gave it a normal input, but in the output, it was actually asking itself a question. And I just found this absolutely fascinating. So one of these questions was, Dr. Jarvis, what do you mean by natural language processing? And Dr. Jarvis responded, if I use NLP to understand human intent, then it's for understanding people better. If the machine can tell us that someone is sad and understands their feelings more in depth than a person without any training at all, well, that would be an amazing accomplishment. And that's what I found to be the essence behind Jarvis. It's actually understanding your intent, maybe sometimes when you don't understand that you're expressing that intent. And I have to wonder, for some of the people that maybe are finding sticking points with Jarvis or have not found it so easy to wrap their head around it, perhaps you just need to be more clear with your intent. And that's something that when we get towards the end of the webinar, if you have any sticking points or you've been trying to get something out of it and you don't know how to go about it, This is where we can sort of clarify your intent, clarify your inputs, and we'll go through these examples together so you can help understand better ways to use Jarvis for yourself. So just one more quote that I thought was pretty interesting. Jarvis asked himself, "Can you tell me what an AI that uses natural language processing to understand human intent does?" And he responded, "AI is a term used more and more in today's society. It stands for artificial intelligence, which means it has the ability to mimic some of your everyday tasks, such as understanding human speech or text input, so they don't need anything else besides their own brain power." And this is sort of a confirmation for me that Jarvis is thinking. Jarvis is conscious in a sense. Jarvis is aware of what you're typing. It's not simply a search engine. It's not simply referencing all of the training material and finding similar terms. It's actually thinking about what you said and thinking about what it should say in response. And just really quick, another quote, "NLP is a relatively new technology, but it's one that has the potential to completely change the way that we interact with computers. In short, NLP is what helps us understand human intent and create high quality content for you." And the us referring specifically to Jarvis and to machine learning and AI algorithms. So this is pretty exciting. Now, for the first time, we can actually interact with computers in a very natural way. And that is truly how you can harness the power behind Jarvis. So let's get into the specifics. How can you get the most out of your experience with Jarvis? So remember, you have to understand that Jarvis understands your intent. So when you're speaking, you need to write very clearly. You need to use simple words that the AI can easily understand. And the reason for this is because the more convoluted you're writing, the more highfalutin your terminology, the harder time the AI is going to have getting to your point. So allow Jarvis to do the flourishing. Allow Jarvis to dress up your writing. But when you create an input, be very specific, be very clear, be very concise about what you're saying so that it has the best opportunity to really wrap its head around your intent. And in all honesty, it helps to be polite and respectful when you're interacting with Jarvis, because you have to remember it is sensitive in a certain way. It is sensitive to your intent, to your emotion. So if you are writing an angry email, it's going to spit out a bunch of angry responses. If you're writing an input in a way that maybe you're coming across as stressed or concerned, that tone, that intent may be picked up and it may translate into your output. So I've found that the best way to actually work with Jarvis is to sometimes just say please, or to just say thank you, or anything that you can do to sort of clarify that like you're being direct and you're being polite. I think it's going to help you get much more positive responses out of them. Now, on the flip side, if you do want a negative output, you may want to experiment with writing a very negative input. You may want to not just putting negative in the tone of voice box, but your input can actually reflect the tone of voice that you want in the output. So that's something that we can experiment with a little bit later here. And as I just mentioned, experimenting is really the key to getting the most out of Jarvis. I've found that all of these kind of outside of the box examples that I've been able to use for myself in my day-to-day workflow were just a result of having an idea and trying it out, and more often than not being surprised that the results were very close to what I was hoping for. So another tip that I use all the time for getting the most out of Jarvis is to combine Jarvis with another tool that's more focused on the type of content that you're creating. So in these two examples here, one of the things that I do for the company that I work for is I'm their content manager. So I'm responsible for having articles written and things like that. So I've been using tools like phrase.io and Surfer SEO, and I recently learned about another one called MarketMuse. It seems worth checking out. And what these do is they allow you to do all of the behind the scenes research for a topic for an article. And I found it very nice to sort of have them side by side. So I'll be getting outputs from Jarvis, putting it into Phrase or Surfer, and then editing it in Surfer to add all of the SEO keywords. So that's one way that I found to sort of enhance my Jarvis experience by combining it with an outside tool. And another example is my wife and I came up with an idea for our own AI startup company, and we decided to use Jarvis to create the pitch deck. So we worked with a company called SlideBean that offers sort of a fill in the blanks template for a startup pitch deck. And they have other types of decks too, like marketing slideshows and things like that. And it's a very easy and straightforward workflow to have Jarvis on one side where you're providing the right inputs and using the right templates, and to have something like SlideBean on the other side where you're just filling in the blanks. So you just kind of bounce back and forth between what SlideBean is asking and what you're getting out of Jarvis. And of course, you can extend this idea to pretty much any type of content or any type of tool that you're already using in your workflow. I highly recommend just having a monitor with both windows up side by side so you can just bounce back and forth. When I first started doing this, I tried to write a whole article in Jarvis first and then bring it over into Phrase or Surfer to enhance it. And I found that the problem with that is it becomes very time consuming to go back and make all of these changes. So it's much easier to just work in both at the same time. So that way you're getting all of the SEO enhancement while you're writing. And then you can even take some of those keywords and suggestions, or people also ask questions, and put them directly into Jarvis to help inform your writing. And another tip that I have for you guys is to use all of the templates as building blocks for a greater piece of content. You don't necessarily have to stick to one template. And I found that it's very easy to go from a kernel of an idea and grow that into a giant content tree, if you will, by expanding it step by step. So you could start with an idea and generate a blog post title. You can turn that blog post title into an outline and some persuasive bullet points. And then you can take that outline to generate an intro paragraph and now use the long form tool to actually expand it into a full article. And if you're able to focus pretty well, you can get content done in 10, 15 minutes if you're good, an hour if you're a little distracted like I am. And that is absolutely changed the game for me. And again, something that I've found is that this is really a limitation of GPT. It's not necessarily Jarvis, but the longer the output is, the more rough it tends to get towards the end of the output. So one of the tips that I have for using the long form tool is to just stick to the short and medium outputs, because I've found 90% of the time I end up deleting the last third of the long output anyway. So I found much more effective outputs from the short and medium tools. So that was the sort of quick spiel. And now I'm going to show you some of my actual day-to-day workflow, right? So one of the use cases that I've identified and I've been using Jarvis for is to actually generate newsletter content for an internet forum. So these are user-generated posts where the newsletter needs to be written about what somebody else said. So I'll show you exactly how I take one of those forum posts and very quickly turn it into a nice tight paragraph that can go into a newsletter. Another thing that I've used Jarvis for that it was not necessarily intended for is job descriptions. So I need to hire a full content team with writers and editors and all that. And very quickly, I was able to get not just meaningful, but actually effective, high converting, attractive job descriptions just by using Jarvis. So I'll show you how I did that. And then lastly, one of the most amazing for me, because I like to make music as a hobby, I found that I can actually get good, meaningful song lyrics out of Jarvis. So I'm going to dive into some experimentation there with you guys. So, so let me switch over to my other screen here. Just give me 1 second.
I love it.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I've just found that it is very natural. And I have to wonder if somebody's having trouble with it, they may be overthinking it. And that's sort of my best advice is just be simple. Start with maybe a much shorter input than you're used to, and just see if you get something useful out of it. Okay, so 1 second, sorry. Oh, and another tip, I just discovered this the other day. You can actually sort of install Conversion AI on your computer through Chrome. So now I actually have conversion AI just on my desktop, and I love it. So let me share this desktop. Great. So first things first, this is the use case where I have this internet forum called Top Law Schools. And this is very specifically for law students and attorneys. So every day, I or one of our writers has to go in and find a forum post that's recent and then write something about it to interest people in visiting that post. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just pick one of these recent posts. This is a pretty good one. So leaving big law to start a business and returning. Now, the template that I've used specifically for this is actually the blog post intro paragraph, because that's essentially what the newsletter content is. It's an introduction. It's something that gets you interested and very briefly summarizes what this post is about. And then I've only found that I just need to change a couple words here and there or add a call to action at the end, and I'm good to go. And I used to rack my brain over some of these because I don't have a legal background. But Jarvis actually understands everything way better than I do because he's been trained on so much more material than I ever have. So I've found sometimes Jarvis knows more about the legal industry than I do, and that's pretty impressive. I do recommend fact-checking things because every once in a while he'll quote some law or some specific act. I like to double-check to make sure that he's right. And honestly, I've found that 80 to 90% of the time, he is fact correct. However, he was not designed to be fact correct, so you definitely want to do some fact checking anytime you get a fact from Jarvis. So really quick, this is exactly what I've been doing. I don't even necessarily read the whole post. I just look for the core question that they're asking. In this case, it's I'm a mid-level M&A/capital markets associated to V10. What are your thoughts on ability to return to big law practice in 1 to 2 years if the business doesn't pan out? So now we're going to open up the blog post intro paragraph, wherever that is. And I actually make sure to use the Top Law Schools as the company name. And my audience is attorneys, law students. Now, I have found sometimes I need to rewrite the question in order to get it down to the character length. So I'm just going to pull up a notepad here. I'm a mid-level M&A capital markets associate at a V10. And then sometimes I add some words just for clarity to help Jarvis out a little bit. And then I might rephrase this question, right? So instead of what are your thoughts on ability, I'm just going to change it to can I return to big law practice in 1 to 2 years if entrepreneurship doesn't pan out? And this may still be too long, so let's just try it. Yeah, so we're already past it. So we'll even take this to can I return? So we'll just start with the core question. Sorry, I'm going off screen a little there. Big law practice and when to use if entrepreneurship doesn't pan out. Perfect. That's exactly 80 characters. And then because this is a newsletter, I tend to use the casual tone of voice because it's a little more conversational. And another thing that I've found with Jarvis, which it's much easier to do this now that we have unlimited credits on the Pro plan, but I like to get at least 5 outputs, sometimes more. And maybe Chris can chime in if this is true or not, but what I've found is it seems like if you do a series of 6 outputs, the first couple are a little less risky, a little less different, and it seems like the later ones are moving away from the seed and tend to be a little more random or a little more creative. So that's why I like to get at least 5 or 6 outputs out of each one, because I found that some of them are a little bland, but others tend to be really good. So let's just see what it gets. I'll make this a little bigger, help people see it better. So this is really good. This is what I like about it, is I get really good intro sentences, and sometimes I'll piece together little tidbits of this here and there. So I'm just going to continue using my notepad for this. So the idea of abandoning big law life to pursue entrepreneurial dreams can be daunting. They don't want to be left out in the cold. If they're, and we could change this from current job to business because that's what it's talking about. Doesn't work out or they get laid off. And now this is where I may add some of the more specific content to the newsletter. So I might say, one of our TLS members is wondering whether they will be able to return to big law after, if a business endeavor doesn't work out. What do you think? Let us know in this thread. And then I would put this into our CMS and add hyperlinks and things like that. But there you go. This is the type of thing where if I were to just sit down and think about it, some of these are a little easier, but some of these posts for me are very time consuming to write. And I've cut my time, I don't even want to say in half, probably in a tenth. I'm doing this in 10 minutes as opposed to an hour and a half. And you know, there's multiple posts in a newsletter. But this is just one use case that I found where, you know, Jarvis was not intended to write newsletter content, but if you understand that a blog post intro paragraph is very similar to the type of content that I'm trying to get, to me, it just made sense to use that template. And there are other ways you could use this too. You could experiment with the content improver, right? You could put his question into the content improver and try to get outputs from there. You could even take it into the long form assistant and describe, like, this is a newsletter paragraph about, you know, a law school forum, blah, 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 and then include the question and see if you can get useful outputs from the long form editor. So really what I'm saying is, this is the way that I do it, but it's not the only way to do it. So I definitely encourage you to experiment with other templates and the long form tool and just figure out ways you can apply it to your specific use case. So that's the newsletter content. I'm pretty excited about the newsletter content specifically because I know a lot of people have newsletters, a lot of people want to start newsletters, but they don't know where to begin. So if you have some sort of content that you can tap into already, whether that's a blog, a video channel, a forum, a Facebook group, you can take tidbits and information that's user generated, and you can turn that into newsletter content very easily using Jarvis. So that's just one example. So now the next thing I want to show you is how I did job descriptions. And I actually noticed in the chat, it seems like some other people are doing job descriptions with this too, which is absolutely outstanding. So I'm just going to full screen them now. And I think, oh yeah, I'm in my personal one, okay. So I'm gonna do this from the beginning. And this is actually, I use the product description template for this. And again, what I was thinking is, well, I need a job description. Which template is gonna be most similar to a job description? Well, if I frame it in such a way that the person I'm hiring is the product in a sense, or the role that I'm trying to fill is the product, then it makes sense that I might be able to use the product description template. So let's try it out. So if our company is BCG Attorney Search, which is one of our other businesses, I would say we need a content writer who is comfortable using artificial intelligence writing tools to speed up their workflow and output a lot of content quickly. We use Slack, Jira, and email to communicate, and the writer is expected to work full time. And for the tone of voice, I usually use just like professional for these, but I actually want to try fun for this one and just see what I'm going to get for a fun job description. And again, I'm going to crank up the outputs just to see if I get better content. And you notice I didn't even try to fill up the entire 600 character description. And again, the reason for that is because I found that if you're very clear and concise and you're using essentially keywords, you don't necessarily have to say use these keywords, although you could certainly try that and I bet you it would work. But in this case, I just made sure to say like Slack, Jira, email, work full time, artificial intelligence writing tools, and I'm going to allow Jarvis to expand on that. And there you go. This is perfect. So we need a content writer to use artificial intelligence tools to speed up the work process, to create a lot of quality content on our, and I would change software to, legal recruiting firm's website. We're looking for someone who will spend the day writing copy for web, marketing materials. So this is perfect. This is a really good job description. And more to the point, look at this output here. Hey, you've just been recruited to use technology for a job search. It's actually calling out directly to the person, which is a very effective way to engage somebody who's scrolling through dozens and dozens of job descriptions trying to find ones to apply to. So if you're looking for good talent, you need to have a good job description because you need to stand out. And that is exactly what Jarvis is meant for, is helping your copy stand out. And I love this description, actually. I might even use this now that I see it. This is an opportunity to get your name out there and help new law firms and find the best candidates. This time, and I would change this part, right? Because you're not an AI writing robot, but a lot of this is very useful. So again, this is just one way that you can use Jarvis to write job descriptions. And you could probably take this same concept. Actually, I want to experiment with this right now. I've never tried this before. But I'm going to see what happens if I try to do the same thing in the long form generator. So let's make a new document. And this is going to be, so this is where I'm describing the content that I want to create. And this is where I'm going to say, this is a job description. The job we are hiring for is blank. We are using these tools. And let's just see what comes out. So I'll try to make this quick. We are a content writer to use... So I've never really tried it this way, but I want to see what happens if I instruct it to use these keywords. How good of a job is it going to do remembering these things?
Michael, you might even at the very beginning put like this is a job description because like maybe prompt so you give it some clarity with.
Oh yes, you're right.
Before we were hiring, so like because like with the long form you can say this is an email, this is a YouTube video, this is whatever. So that might just give better context.
Perfect. Thank you for reminding me that. So absolutely yes, and that is sort of how you can tap into the power of the long form generator is to say exactly what the type of content is. So this is a job description. We are hiring a content writer to use artificial intelligence writing tools. The company, the company you will work for, maybe just add a little clarity here. So the company you will work for is a legal recruiting firm, and the content is written for attorneys and law firms. And please use the keywords Jira, Slack, and conversion.ai. And I'm just going to see what comes out. So I'll have it generate some titles for me. I like this. Legal recruiting firm looking for a content writer. I might add a word or two to that one. But this is good too. And I actually really like this one. Content writer needed for artificial intelligence writing tools. Boom. And I'm going to have it generate an intro paragraph and just see where it goes. And in this case, if the description that I need is actually pretty short, I may be able to just run with the intro paragraph, or I could take it into the editor and tweak it. I like this. If you are a content writer who's looking for a job, this could be the perfect opportunity for you. We are hiring someone to use artificial intelligence writing tools. So, and again, it took a lot of my input, but that's fine because this is the long form generator. And I might take out this sentence, but I like that it was able to integrate the keywords, but not just put them in quotes, not just say keywords. It did, unfortunately, in this middle one, but I like this version here. Must be able to write at least 500 words per hour, which is amazing. I never even considered including something like that in a job description. I'd never even thought of asking my writers, how many words per hour can you write? So Jarvis just taught me something about how I can do my job better. That's how amazing Jarvis is. So I'm going to actually copy this and then use this first one. So that way when I open up the editor, I can sort of add this intro paragraph as well. And I would go back and edit this later. I'm not spending so much time editing now just so I don't bore you guys. But let's just see what happens if I hit compose here. Okay, so that's not necessarily helpful, but I do like, this is actually true. We would be hiring remotely. So the content writer will work remotely from home on their laptop or no, I'll just say on their own, and will be responsible for completing I wish I had another word there. Assignments. Let's just see where Jarvis runs with this. Writing assignments, briefs, writing content for the website, and blog posts. I like that. Candidate must be able to work from home on their own with minimal supervision or guidance needed during working hours. This is a full-time position that will require 40+ hours per week of availability in order to complete assignments within deadlines set by management team members at all times. Boom, I'm done. That is my job description. I would clean it up, edit it a little bit, and basically use that. And then one other thing that I like about Jarvis is that you can use, for instance, the persuasive bullet points or the outline template here to get some bullet points for this job description as well. So let's try that. If we just add some persuasive bullet points, the company is, or actually let's call this content writer for the product name, because remember we want to keep in mind our product is the job that we're hiring for. And I would copy probably just this paragraph here and maybe this one here too. And I'm going to finish this up in a sec so we could open it up for questions. And it's going to leave the tone of voice blank. I don't always use that. Sometimes I just like to see what it gives me anyway. And then if I want to fine tune it, I'll go back and add a tone. And these are all great bullet points, right? Convert your passion into a career, earn money working from home, work on assignments for a company that's in the legal field, gain experience using AI writing tools. These are all usable. Every single one of these seems like I could use it in some way, shape, or form. So again, that just highlights the power of combining different templates and tools within Jarvis, because you could take this idea for, oh, I need a job description, and even use the IDA template to really sell it more. So that's just one example. And for my last example, I want to show you guys sort of how I was able to get song lyrics out of Jarvis. And I want to do this in the long form generator, because now that I understand you can sort of direct it as to what type of content you get, I think this would be a really good use case for it. And this could be used for poetry or rap lyrics, or I'm even curious whether Jarvis could write a movie script or a dialogue or even just a monologue. So that's stuff that like you can absolutely play around with on your own. But right now I want to see if Jarvis can write me a song. This is a song with lyrics in these. So I'm writing it in the style of Billy Joel, but I want to use some country song keywords just for fun and to see what comes out. So we'll get a name for the song first. Oh, I like that. I got you. I'll be doggone. Perfect. And then let's just see what comes out for an intro paragraph. I got you. I'll be doggone. I'm gonna make a change in my life. So it's already giving you actual song lyrics in the format of a song. And if you have any musical talent, music might just pop into your head. You could restructure the pentameter or whatever, the meter, sorry, and really just run with it there. So I just want to see what happens if we just have it keep spitting stuff out. Don't mean much to me if I ain't got nothing but time. on my own, know where to go. I got you, and that's all right with me. Now don't be telling everybody. So this is where you just kind of turn it into a song on your own, but you're taking what he output, which is still referencing the idea that it's a song, and then you just sort of break it up into a way to sing it. So this is not a course on songwriting, of course. So I'm going to open it up to questions, and if anyone has a specific use case that they want to experiment with together, or more importantly, if you have something that you've been trying to get out of Jarvis and you're not sure how to do it, now's a great opportunity to ask some questions and we can walk through it together. So back to you, Chris.
You crushed it. Thanks so much. I just told David Peterson, I was like, dude, Michael thinks about Jarvis way differently than we do. It's amazing. It's like, I love bringing your perspective because like you're adding so much value to our customers because, you know, you just think about it way differently. And I learned a ton just the way you thought about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been trying to man the chat a little bit. There's not everyone just kind of like everyone just talks about how awesome you did. So it's like people are crushing it. Yeah, you could even within that. So you could highlight some words there, Michael, and like maybe you don't like it, you can highlight it and click the rephrase or make more creative. So like you can like take something like you highlight like a sentence or inside the document actually, and then it'll pop up the little like. There's where you can fix the grammar, you can rephrase it, or you can make more creative. And so you can kind of just get more examples quickly and like, oh, do I like that? No. And then you can like try again. And you can just begin to like just change things or make more creative out of the gate right there. And I don't know if when you do the make more creative, I don't know if that's pulling from the prompt that you put. It may not be. So that might be the one thing where it's not pulling from the setting to get the first piece. It actually might be, but I'm not quite sure.
Broke it up into like 2 lines as if it were a song. So it seems like it is referring back to the input or to the display.
It should be. Yeah, it should be doing that. That's the intent. So I just want to. I think probably isn't. What's the icon on the bottom? What's that little icon on the bottom right? I think that's actually like something on your computer. The bottom right icon or something like that. I'm not sure what Amanda's talking about. I have a guide that this is a question. I have a guide that I've outlined and a lot of sections written. What would be the best way to use a long form to edit or make add better?
Repeat the first part, please.
So that she has a guide that she's outlined and has a lot of sections already written. What would be the best way to use a long form to edit, add, make better?
So this is actually a really good question, and I sort of have an example in my work account that I can switch over to here and show you guys what I've been doing for basically this exact idea. So you have an outline and you're fleshing it out into something more. So 1 second. And okay, so this is one that I started the other day, right? So my boss sent me a prompt. He was like, hey, can you guys write an article about this? And he listed all of these job titles that take place for attorneys within of private companies. And how I've been using Jarvis to do this was I just generated an intro paragraph based on my input. Is there a way that I could actually pull up the original input here, the document settings? Yeah. So my title was just, what are the different jobs for attorneys inside of companies? And then for the description, I actually could have been a little more descriptive. I could have said, this is a blog post, or this is a listicle, right? This is a list of topics and a brief description of each. But all I did was say, I actually put the title in the content description. And as a matter of fact, here's what I did in order to speed this up. I just copy and pasted what my boss had sent me, put that right into the description, and just ran with it. So what I've been doing here, and then this is actually a perfect example of where I was using Surfer alongside of conversion. Oh wait, you know what? Maybe infinite mirrors there. So Surfer SEO. And I realize I have a 4K screen, so I'm sorry if it's a little small for you guys. I'll try to blow these up. Right. So I ran a content editor in here for in-house attorney job titles. And this is where I'm able to kind of bounce back and forth. So when you're doing any type of article or writing that's going to be on the internet, you want to be making sure it's optimized for search engines. And this is where I was using Jarvis. So if you didn't learn this the other day, the pound signs tell Jarvis where is a section heading. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, normally Jarvis is referring back to the 600 characters prior, but if it sees the 2 pounds, it sort of stops, right? So it doesn't run over into a previous concept.
That's correct. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's like perfect yet, but it is like a small little kind of markdown thing we have right now. So it's not perfect, but it does definitely do the trick for now.
Right. Exactly. And it's a helper. And also more importantly, when you start writing for Jarvis, in order for it to complete it, if you're writing and it's reiterating what the header is, I think it's more likely to recognize like, okay, I only need to be writing about this and not whatever came before it. So, I had already prompted it and then got sidetracked and I just let it run. And this is correct. The Deputy General Counsel is often the second in command when it comes to legal matters. They're often responsible for overseeing all of a company's litigation and blah, blah, blah. So this is exactly what I've been using it for when it comes to article writing. I take my outline or my section headings, whether that's generated by Jarvis or whether that's actually something that was given to me, or if I am trying to write an article that a competitor already has, I'll use Surfer to actually come up with a list of topics and section headings and things like that it recommends that I use based on the search term that I'm trying to rank for. So that is my recommendation to you, Heather, is if you have the guide that is outlined, if the sections are written, you don't necessarily have to rewrite them, but I would actually import all of that. I would copy it into Jarvis, so that way it already has some content to refer back to. So use the description when you're starting the long form assistant to say, this is a guide for, and then your target audience. The intent of the guide is to, teach them how to ride a bicycle or whatever. And these are the key topics that I want to cover, and please use these keywords, things like that. And then start the generator, but once it's open, you bring in the content you've already written. Because now every time you hit this generate button, it's going to refer back to the content that's on the page, regardless of whether it was written by you, copied in, or written by Jarvis. So yeah, I hope that helps. Cool. So Chris, were there any other good questions that you wanted to highlight for me, or should I just read some of the recent ones?
I kind of held the ones from the previous spots, so you can just answer those.
I like this. So I'm brand new and have not even had a chance to use the software yet. The bullet points and many features look good, and I'm excited to hop into this. I'm going to use this to produce a bunch of how-to FAQ content. I have short FAQs written. How can I use the tool to expand those into blog posts, videos, ads, or what templates/features would you use? So I actually did this exact same thing, Adam. I have all of this content that I need to have written, and we're taking all of these new approaches and trying to develop a cohesive strategy. So what I did first was I actually bought a list of people also ask questions from a company called Nozzle, and I'll just show you that really quick. So nozzle.io/PAA, and you basically give them a list of 500 keywords, and they'll generate a report with up to thousands of questions that are related to those keywords. So I extracted the questions related to corporate attorneys for an FAQ article about corporate attorneys. And I basically, this was even before the long form generator was available, I used the blog post intro template paragraph to basically write one or a little more paragraphs for each question. And Jarvis did a really, really, really good job of succinctly answering each question that I input. So that's how I was able to construct an FAQ article, which I can show you, I think, in this one. Yeah, corporate attorney. So again, this was before the long form generator started, so I don't have it in Jarvis. But these were the questions that I was inputting, and I can even show you just a quick example. I just would take the, does a corporate lawyer go to court? And then, where's my templates? Okay. And then just use the blog post intro paragraph, and the title is the question, the audience is attorneys, and the product is BCG search. And the tone of voice is professional. Actually, I'm going to do expert for this one. Let's see what comes up. And then, got to zoom out a little, I think. And then this is basically what I was using before the long form generator. So I still recommend trying different templates alongside the long form generator because you may get outputs that are more unique. If you feel like Jarvis is repeating itself a few times, just try a different template or modify your input in some way. Take out some of the extra words. You know, if you use like if this, that, then, where, were, all of, you know, a lot of people tend to be very wordy in their writing, and that doesn't help Jarvis. So you really need to trim it down and just hit the high notes. And this is exactly a perfect, you know, answer to my question. Does a corporate lawyer go to court? Corporate lawyers work in the legal department of the company. They spend their time reviewing contracts, et cetera. The most common misconception about a corporate lawyer is that they go to court. A corporate lawyer will rarely appear in court unless it's an appeal from lower courts or if there's some type of dispute between shareholders over who should be the CEO of the company. I don't know if that last part is true. I would fact check that. But in general, this is a pretty bang up answer that I could just copy into Surfer and then, you know, tweak a couple keywords here and there. So hope that helps. Greg says, I'm using Market Muse in the 2. Jarvis does indeed work well to create content that ranks. Glad to hear that, Greg. That's awesome. So Amanda's asking, can you change the intent after you start? And this, I don't actually know the answer to this, Chris. Do you know, are you able to like change the intent? I think this means in the long form generator, or is it sort of baked in, right? If you go back and edit the description after it's already started writing, is it referring to the new description or is it referring to the original?
Great question. Hey, Dave. If you're in the long form and like you want to, can you change, like you have like, you write in the very top of it. I guess you're not, you're actually hearing you. If you like write something, can you change the intent mid? So like you write the long form and now it's reading 600 characters and then it's going back to the intro. Can you change the intent?
Like back at the settings?
Yeah. And then will it read back? Or is that kind of, or is that very beginning workflow baked in?
Nope, it's not. It'll change. So you could do that.
Yep, so you can change it.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's a great way to sort of, because here's an interesting point. I remember reading in one of the Facebook comments how somebody was a little, I don't want to say annoyed, but they were bothered by the fact that Jarvis was always so positive. And they wanted to, or their use case was saying that oftentimes in a blog post, you do need to be critical of somebody else or something else, or even the topic that you're writing about. So how do you change Jarvis's tone to critical at that point in the blog post? I would think the best way to do that is after you've already written the positive part of it, go back to the description, change it and say, the intent of this passage is to criticize blah, blah, blah. And I would bet that the next output that you start to get from Jarvis is going to sound more critical. So that would be something for you guys to experiment with on your own. Cool. If I wanted to write an infograph, I guess you mean infographic, how could I get info for that so I can get enough info to build out the graph? Any ideas? So my approach to this would be to use probably the blog post outline and maybe even the blog post topic ideas, along with probably the persuasive bullet points, because infographics tend to be very small, digestible bits of information. And our company traditionally creates infographics based on articles that have already been written, so we're copying content out of the article. But if you're doing it this way, you could actually have in tandem both an infographic and a blog post to go alongside it, because you can generate those bullet points for the infographic, and then you can expand on them to write the actual content. So that's my recommendation. I would actually use like the bullet point, the outline, the topic ideas, those templates. I even like oftentimes using the video topic ideas instead of the blog post topic ideas, because it changes the type of output that you get. So don't be afraid to try that. Don't be afraid to try the video script outline and just see what you get and experiment with it. And if you get something good out of it, we'd love to hear in the Facebook group what you do with it. So yeah. Shakar asks, anything that you use to reduce the content to sum it up rather than expanding? I have not specifically used it in that way, but if you did have to do that, I would probably just use the intent or use the description of the long form and make the intent like, I want to summarize or I want to very quickly explain whatever it is you're trying to do. So you're sort of leading Jarvis down that path of, please be concise for me. You can even try to say, Jarvis, will you please be concise, and just see what it does. So that's what I would recommend for that. What was the company that generated the questions? Let me just write it big on here so everyone can see it. So that was nozzle.io/PAA. And it's great because you just upload a list and they give you back a report in the very nice like interface, so you can browse through your data that way. It is $80 to get the list of keywords, just want to let you know. And I recommend giving 500 keywords because they're only going to give you back one list of questions. So the more content you can get out of it, the more worthwhile it is. There are also tools built into Surfer SEO, Phrase, probably Market Muse, where it'll do some of that. People also ask research, but you would have to kind of go one by one for each keyword or for each search term that you want to get questions for. So that's a good way to do it if you're just writing one post at a time. We did sort of the batch process so we could have all the questions that we could then pull from and create content from. So, and also Hemingway style, somebody mentioned, that is a great writer. So this is something where if you had this running alongside Jarvis, you could copy his output into here, and then it's going to highlight things that need to be improved, right? So this is another way that you could take Jarvis's output and then put it in there and trim it down somewhat. Great. Awesome.
Question earlier about translation. We don't have, like, within the templates, you'll see an optional output language, and those are templates that have been specifically trained on language. And so we are working on that, and we're about to get a deeper integration that will make that a lot easier. With the long form, it's not specifically trained just yet on translation, but what you could do is just use, like, if you're writing in Spanish, maybe just write in Spanish into the workflow, and maybe even write in there, write this in, like, this needs to be written in Spanish, and then I'm assuming that would work. And then as you write, again, it's going to be referencing back to the input box where it says this is a blog post written in Spanish, again, and you're writing in Spanish, so Jarvis should pick that up and can continue that. So it's like, it's kind of a different way of thinking about the translation, and it should work, but again, it's not specifically trained just yet.
I want to see what happens if I change my song description in Spanish.
Yeah.
And this is also going to test what we were talking about before. Can you go back and change what it was before? I don't actually know what Spanish.
So it might not work in terms of, like, because we're still writing in English, but I think maybe the hack would be like write the entire input of the whole plate, yeah. Like writing, even saying write this in Spanish, write that in Spanish, and I think that maybe just a ton of Spanish language in the input, and even saying write this in Spanish should give you the output. I don't know about that piece of it.
Yeah. That's probably a little deeper experimentation. I want to get to more questions, but that would be awesome for you guys to try out that do speak other languages, and then report back to these guys, let them know if it's giving a good output or a bad output, and then they can, when they have the time, help refine that for you guys. Cool. And then somebody brings up, for infographic, also try to use the word stats or statistics. So that's a great point. If you want Jarvis to give you statistics, you have to tell it, please output statistics, or my intent is to create an infographic with statistics about the number of attorneys hired in the corporate practice area in 2010 to 2015, whatever. And again, it's not designed to be factual. It's not designed to fact check for you. So it's probably going to give you some BS statistics, but that may still help you come up with ideas for the types of statistics that you can then go research and get the actual numbers for. So yeah, and then Answer the Public is also a good free version, definitely. I did notice with Answer the Public, we were not getting good results when it came to just inputting a keyword like corporate attorneys. So I don't know if we were using it wrong, but for us, Phrase or Nozzle was very simple because we could just give it a list of our keywords from our SEO person and go to town. And Adrian sort of confirms that, yes, Conversion AI does seem to be the most factual GPT-3 tool. So, again, make sure you're fact checking because you can't guarantee that. But I have found that if I'm even writing about a topic that I don't know about, it's great because I'm learning from it. And if there's something that maybe stands out to me is like, oh, is that real? That prompts me to go Google it and then find out more about that topic. So that's a way I've been using it for fun in addition to for profit. Yeah. What is a good number for Surfer? As I understand it, you want to try to get it into the green. So above, I think, like 70%. Higher is always better. But the most important thing, I think, is to have a higher score than the competing articles on the first page, but at the same time, matching the length similarly. So it used to be that you could just write a longer article with more keywords and you're more likely to rank higher. As I understand it now, it's more along the lines of, well, if you have a 10,000 word article, but people are searching for 2,000 word articles, yours is not going to be so relevant. So you might get pushed down. So also keep that in mind, the word count, the section headings, and things like that. Cool. Oh, so Becca's asking about Instagram captions, using this tool as well for LinkedIn posts and creative endeavors. So I really like the Instagram captions. I've just been using this sort of for my personal uses, but I'm just going to see what happens. If I punch in a question, like what's the use of being free when I spend all my time working? Tone of voice is clever. See what happens. And what I've found is that it tends to actually do a pretty good job of being creative and short. So this could be good for generating sort of fake quotes or comments or things like that. So this could be good also for like almost a headline for a LinkedIn post, if you will. Yeah, I like this. Even the most free-spirited among us need to make a living. So I'm starting my own business selling these fine handmade soaps. And this is where you get to then expand on it, be a little more clever with it. What I feel like, I feel like the photo post captions are very similar to the creative story in the way Jarvis is thinking, but the photo captions are intentionally short, 1 or 2 lines, whereas the creative story tends to go a little bit longer. So you could potentially even come up with a title for a creative story by using the Instagram captions template. Yeah. Oh, actually, so this is an interesting point. So Greg and Nick are mentioning WordTune. So WordTune is a plugin for Google Chrome. And I don't know if it's working in here right now because this is another extension. But WordTune is an AI plugin that will rephrase your sentences. And I have found that I like using WordTune, not necessarily within Jarvis directly, but you could if the plugin runs at the same time. More along the lines of if I'm trying to rewrite we have a lot of email content that goes out every week, and we want to have original writing in each email, but at the same time, we want the content to more or less be the same. So WordTune is excellent for that because it's not creative. It's very linear. It's just finding ways to rephrase the exact sentence that you put in. Whereas Jarvis, I think, is a little more liberal, a little more creative, and is definitely trying to be creative when it comes to the way it's rewriting, whereas WordTune is not. I have not played with the paid version of WordTune. I know there's some additional, like you can set the tone, whether you want long or short outputs, so you can expand or contract. Actually, going back to that question of how do you make it more concise, right? WordTune is a very good way to make things more concise. So I do recommend using WordTune, especially because it's a free version, but not necessarily within Jarvis per se. So yeah. Can you specify which person Jarvis speaks in? Generally, I've found that Jarvis will mimic your input. So if you write the input as first person, more often than not, it's going to have an output that's in the first person. The bio, the personal bio template, and maybe the company, I haven't checked, those actually ask you if you want first or third person, so you can be more direct with that. So if you have a specific use case where you need absolutely first person, it may be worth just trying that template for whatever you're trying to do and just see if it applies to your situation, because you have a little more control over the first or third person in that case. I've also noticed that in the creative template, it'll jump back and forth a lot. You know, you might have the narrator speaking for a bit about another character in the third person, and then it switches to first person to quote one of the characters. So you may have better luck with an input that specifies, you know, this is a story written in the first person format or something like that. Yeah. How can I motivate Jarvis to use specific references or steer him to certain references? That is an interesting question, and this is something that I've sort of been experimenting with on my own, because the company that I work for has been around for 20 years and has a lot of writing on the internet. So my suspicion was that Jarvis was probably trained on some of our content. So what I've been doing is I've been using actually the company name as the tone of voice. And I've been very successful in getting outputs that are very similar to our current tone of voice. Now, I don't know if that's specifically going to help you with references, because I don't know if there's a way to point Jarvis in the direction of like, hey, refer to the 1983 Encyclopedia Britannica. But if you want to sound like a certain company, or if a certain company is an authority in your field, you might have good luck by using that company name as the tone of voice. So I'd give that a try. Have Jarvis do reverse lyrics for a country song. I'm actually going to try this at the end. I want to get to more questions, but I love that idea. So if you want to stay on to see me try to create a reversed country song at the end, we'll do that last. You guys need to acquire WordTune. That might not be a bad idea. And then there's your direct plugin access too.
Yeah, we got a lot of these. We got a lot of these integrations in the works. So we're going to make this document section is going to be perfect. One person asked if you would just like expand on like taking that. Like you talked about using Creative Story to do an Instagram post. Like, would you want to just take that full cycle and just like throw that in a Creative Story real quick?
I love that idea. Yeah, let's try that right now. So I actually like this output here that we got. So this is from the song directly. But what I'm going to do is just take this and then put it into the Creative Story. And I'm literally just going to use that as the plot. And I just want to see where Jarvis is going to run with this. So the tone of voice, I want to use enigmatic. And then the other thing too is you could sort of bounce back and forth. So I could start with the plot using this input. Then I can go back to the photos post captions, take another sort of like idea, put it back into the Creative Story, and then continue the story. Oh, I like this. I sit alone at the end of a dock, watching the sun setting before me. I'm surrounded by trees on either side, and given that it's fall, leaves litter my surroundings. A slight breeze tussles them about, making for an eerie symphony in nature as they scatter over the ground and each other, until suddenly there is silence. So I'm just going to keep using this because it's open, just for convenience. Oh, that's nice. It didn't paste it at the top. That's good. Thank you guys for fixing that. So now let's go back to the photo post captions. And what if I actually take this idea, sort of iterate on it, spending more time outside. And then a tone of voice here can be poetic. Let's see what that looks like. Here's another, so I didn't like using this when I first tried it a few weeks ago, the examples, because I found it tended to mimic the examples a little too closely. However, an interesting thought that came to my mind is that if you're trying to get Jarvis to use specific references, you may want to experiment with putting like a web URL or a company name into the examples field here, and then seeing if you're getting short outputs that you can then expand on in another template. So there's just another idea for you guys. So let's generate 6 outputs. Oh, I like this. So this sort of ties into what's happening in the story already, right? A slight breeze, talking about leaves, the sunset, and then this next caption, right, is I'm not sure what it is about this weather, but I feel like a kid again. So now we can go back into the Creative Story template and then sort of say, just again, same thing. Maybe for tone of voice, let's do F Scott. F Scoot. F Scott Fitzgerald, and just generate some outputs. Oh, I like this. I can't help but feel like a kid again when the snow starts to fall. I should know better than anyone that time always chases me down, but it's nice to pretend for a while. There's something about it that makes me think of my younger days, and I love every second of it. The way the light shines off the ice just reminds me of those memories where everything seemed perfect. It was fantastic then, too, albeit not perfect in an unusual way. There was laughter and joy all around us as we played outside all day long. But even when things were finally starting to get dark out, and our fingers were losing their feeling from being frostbitten during the cold winter months, it still felt good knowing that and now, so I'm going to cut this out so Jarvis doesn't actually accidentally refer to this, although it's still going to refer to the content description. So I'm going to cut all that out too. This is a creative story about lost time. And I'm just kind of messing around with this at this point. So let's just see what happens if I let Jarvis run with this in the long form generator. Still felt good knowing that at least we were together. So now we've introduced a second character in our story, and now we can sort of branch off of this. Now we can maybe go back into these templates, take this idea of somebody being together when they were younger and build off of that. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to find that feel. So, and this is another thing that I've noticed is that the long form generator, its grammar is not as sharp as the templates, and that probably has to do with the more sort of fluid and open nature of the long form generator, and I'm sure that over time this will get refined. But yeah, so this kind of gives you the ideas, and maybe this is just okay. Maybe I actually want to try to make this more creative. Oh, fewer characters. But I could try to rephrase it, right?
Too many characters. I think someone mentioned there's like 10 or so with the creative, because again, like I think it's because with our randomness level, like if you put a ton in and it's like trying to create a whole new like creative spin on it, it doesn't change it as much. I think we put that limitation in for now just to make sure that it does give like a new spin, not just like a small like rephrase.
Right, and I think that goes back to this idea of using short, clear, concise inputs tend to get better, more usable outputs from Jarvis. So that definitely makes sense. You would need to limit it for the creative aspect. But this was actually a very quick way to fix not the best output that I got from the long form generator. I just took that whole paragraph, and I don't know if you saw what I did. I just highlighted it and then clicked the rephrase button, and it gave me a very, very good, well-written rewrite. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much more time on this in case other people have questions, but that is how I would use these tools. And again, try out some other things, right? Maybe try like a video script outline or a hook and an introduction, or you can try out all these different templates in ways that you wouldn't normally use them. But if you're using them as building blocks, then you can sort of parlay one into the other. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Any other questions we have here from Michael? I know we've been over an hour 15. You guys, there's still like 65 people in this thing. So
thank you guys.
You're crushing it, dude. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it.
I'm super engaged. Like I'm learning how to use this all the time too. So you guys have any more questions for Michael? And dude, again, thanks so much for offering your time and value to the group. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you all for attending. This was actually really, really awesome. I like talking about this stuff, and I get excited about Jarvis because I see the potential. I see all the creative ways that you can use it. And that was why I did this, is because I wanted to inspire other people to use Jarvis in new and creative ways. Because I think that's how Jarvis himself will learn and improve the fastest, is by everyone just trying out new things. And then, remember to post about your results in the community Facebook group, because that's how everyone else is going to learn about new ways to use it too. So maybe I'll switch back to the PowerPoint just to recap. Yeah. So just in conclusion, remember, treat Jarvis like your friend. Be nice to him, and he will be nice to you. He understands your intent, so you don't need to be very convoluted. You can be very simple as long as your intent is clear. And the more direct you are with clarifying your intent, the easier it is for him to understand what he's supposed to do. So write clearly, make your intent obvious, and then honestly trust your intuition. This is exactly how I've figured out all of this, and I've been able to create all of this, is because whenever I have an idea, I just try it to see if it works. And I understand if you're on a limited credit plan, that might be a little daunting, but that's the beauty now of this unlimited plan, is that we can experiment, we can try new things, and not have to worry about how much it's going to cost us at the end of the day. And definitely be polite and respectful. Jarvis absolutely appreciates it. So there you go. Don't be afraid to experiment. And yeah, there you go. We already did the question. So if anyone else has a final question, I'm happy to answer and let everyone get back to their lives.
This is all Michael. I didn't do anything. I just put it together. This is all him. I had no idea what this was going to be about, and I'm glad I didn't give you any direction because, hey, just like Jarvis, I didn't want to give you direction because like this is way better than I could ever even like put together. So thanks so much. It is amazing.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'd like to keep doing these every week. So if there's enough interest, then we could just maybe have a regular Friday at 1 o'clock, hangout and work through some of your guys' issues.
Let's do it. Yeah, and we're gonna have people, a lot of folks coming in, new people coming in over the next as we go. It's growing, so I think a lot of people would just benefit a ton from just like seeing how you. I think it's also helpful because if some people are not on the unlimited plan, they can't quite experiment like you. So it's kind of like getting to use your experimentation to like create some better practices for us to make some workflows. So I think that's helpful.
Exactly. And then all these are recorded too, right? So they'll be able to watch the replay and then get the training on their own time and maybe pause it and try new things. And absolutely.
I love it, y'all. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll keep doing these again. I think this is super helpful. So we'll get this kind of on the docket and yeah.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
All right, y'all. Well, we'll bounce here. Thanks so much for y'all's time. Michael, you do best.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you need anything, let us know. If you have any other questions, like ask in the Facebook group. I mean, Michael's on the Facebook group. He's answering all the tough questions anyway, so you'll probably see him answering the tough questions anyway in the Facebook group. But yeah, you can reach out to us on Facebook. Reach out to me directly if you have any questions for accounts. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. And thanks for being on this journey with us.
Thank you, guys.
All right, y'all. Have a great one.